Good evening. This is Radio Free Mormon. As most of you know, I was an apologist for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for many, many years earlier in my life. And I knew all of the arguments that showed, among other things, that the Book of Mormon was true, ancient, and historical. A lot of those arguments had to do with connections between the Book of Mormon and ancient manuscripts to which Joseph Smith did not have access. How could Joseph Smith have known? Well, some of those arguments, in fact, a surprising and alarming number of those arguments are starting to be boomeranged now in 2025. What was an argument for the Book of Mormon when I was in my 20s are now becoming arguments against the Book of Mormon in my 60s. And tonight on Radio Free Mormon, we're going to talk about one of those arguments specifically, and it is catastrophic, the failure of this argument, and it's being turned against the Book of Mormon. Yes, another one bites the dust here tonight on Radio Free Mormon. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. This is Radio Free Mormon on the air, broadcasting behind enemy lines. Tonight's episode, Stolen from Noah, or Another One Bites the Dust. Radio Free Mormon, episode 397. Today's date is April 19th, 2025. Tomorrow is Easter Sunday. Good evening. Once more tonight, we're going to talk about a specific argument that has historically been used to show the authenticity of the Book of Mormon and how it is that recent research has turned that entire argument on its head, and now it becomes evidence against the Book of Mormon. This argument is one that I made as an apologist many years ago. Now, the tragedy is that there are apologists for the church today who are continuing to make the same argument, even though it has been completely undercut and subverted and controverted by this new research. So the first thing I'm going to do is steel man this argument, give it its best presentation, show it to you the way I would have presented it as an apologist. And then we're going to see how other apologists currently do the same thing. And then we're going to show the evidence that proves that this is not an evidence for the Book of Mormon, but actually now it's an evidence against the Book of Mormon. And what I'm talking about tonight are Noah's glowing stones, or his glowing stone singular. How did Joseph know? That is the perennial question that Mormon apologists ask when they believe they have presented a connection between the Book of Mormon and something ancient that Joseph Smith did not have access to. How did Joseph know? And here's a picture of that stone being held in someone's hand. Now, everybody here who was a Mormon knows the story of the brother of Jared, and this is a picture of it, right? The brother of Jared is an individual who ended up with a group of others building 8 barges. You can find this in the Book of Ether, which is a book in the Book of Mormon. He builds 8 barges for him and his people to cross the waters to get to America. And he wonders how it is they're going to be able to see in these 8 barges because they're like submarines. They've got no windows. So what the brother of Jared does is he takes 16 stones, 2 for each of the barges, and he goes to the Lord with them. And the Lord reaches out from the cloud of glory and touches each one of these 16 stones and makes them glow. It makes them shine as lights, so that then the brother of Jared can take 2, 1 in each end of the 8 barges for a total of the 16 stones. That is the story of the brother of Jared. Now, if you think his story sounds a little bit like Noah's Ark on steroids, instead of 1 ark, there are 8 arks or 8 barges in the Jaredite terminology, right? If it sounds a little bit like Noah's Ark, you ain't seen nothing yet, because there's an ancient Jewish legend that says that Noah had a glowing stone that he hung from the ceiling in order to light up the ark. Now, that account is not in the Bible. So where did Joseph Smith get it from? How does he have the brother of Jared basically doing the same thing and the same unusual thing as Noah did in these ancient accounts in order to provide light to his vessel? That is the question. Now, here's how I would present this as an apologist. And here's an example of other apologists using this very same argument, even today, as evidence for the Book of Mormon. Did Noah have a glowing stone? I think that's from Scripture Central. I can't remember which. There are several of them out there. It's a very common apologetic argument, as I say, but it should have its own funeral because now it's dead. It's worse than dead. It's coming back to attack the Book of Mormon. It is a boomerang argument. So first off, we have to look at the description of Noah's Ark in Genesis 6. This is how the argument will run from the apologists. Let's look at the description of Noah's Ark. It's not very lengthy, this part. It's verse 16 in Genesis chapter 6. A window shalt thou make to the ark. This is God talking to Noah, giving him all the plans. A window shalt thou make to the ark, and in a cubit shalt thou finish it above, and the door of the ark shalt thou set in the side thereof, with lower, second, and third stories shalt thou make it. So that's about all we get as far as the description of the interior of the ark, and especially this first sentence, a window shalt thou make to the ark. That's really what this is all hanging by. What is this window? You'll see there, this is the LDS version of the Bible. There's a footnote A on verse 16 of chapter 6 of Genesis. If we go down to that footnote at the bottom, we find that the word for window there is translated from the Hebrew Sohar. And Sohar is a word that the footnote goes on to say, some rabbis believed it was a precious stone that shone in the ark. Well, there's nothing about that in the Bible. So this is interesting. Some rabbis believed it was a precious stone. You can see that there is an apologetic slant to this footnote. And frankly, this happens in another place that I'm aware of. In the new scriptures, they're about 45 years old now, but still. The new scriptures for the LDS Church, the most recent scriptures for the LDS Church, have in a couple of places, and this is one of them, footnotes that relate to apologetic arguments intended to demonstrate that the Book of Mormon is true. However, this one, like the other one actually, this one is going to come back to bite them in the arse. So it also tells us, look at Ether chapter 2, verses 23 through 24, because, right, this is what happened with the brother of Jared. He used a stone. So if we go to that reference in Ether chapter 2, it says, and he cried again unto the Lord, this is the brother of Jared, and he cried again unto the Lord, saying, O Lord, behold, I have done even as thou hast commanded me, and I have prepared the vessels for my people, and behold, there is no light in them. Behold, O Lord, wilt thou suffer that we shall cross this great water in darkness? And the Lord said unto the brother of Jared, what will ye that I should do that ye may have light in your vessels? For behold, ye cannot have windows, for they will be dashed in pieces. Neither shall ye take fire with you, for ye shall not go by the light of fire. For behold, ye shall be as a whale in the midst of the sea, for the mountain waves shall dash upon you. Nevertheless, I will bring you up again out of the depths of the sea, for the winds have gone forth out of my mouth, and also the rains and the floods have I sent forth. Now, the main thing I want you to concentrate on in this particular passage is this in verse 23. For behold, ye cannot have windows, for they will be dashed in pieces. That's the first thing. No windows in the Jaredite barges. And we all know what happens next, right? I think I've even talked about it before in this program. Right. The Lord reaches out, touches the 16 stones, and makes them glow as objects of illumination to light up the interior of the barges. And there's a picture of it right there. We also note in Ether chapter 6 that there's a specific connection made between the 8 barges of the Jaredites and Noah's Ark, and that's in verse 7. And this is always important. Specifically, it's talking about the tightness of the 8 barges, but it likens it to Noah. And here it is in chapter 6, verse 7 of Ether. It came to pass that when they were buried in the deep, there was no water that could hurt them, their vessels being tight like unto a dish, and also they were tight like unto the ark of Noah. All right. So there's the connection. I mean, it's pretty obvious when you're reading this. This is like Noah's Ark on steroids. Instead of 1 ark, you've got 8 of them. And instead of 1 stone for Noah, you have 16 stones in the Jaredite barges. But the question is, how did Joseph Smith know if there was something to know here? Why such an unusual method? This is really an unusual method, at least to 21st century ears, of illuminating the inside of a dark place with a glowing stone. How odd, and how odd it should be that Noah, in ancient legends, Jewish legends, used exactly that same type of illumination as the Jaredites did. So this is the question: how could Joseph Smith have known? And is this not an evidence in favor of the ancientness, authenticity, and truth of the Book of Mormon? Well, here we have the exact same slide, but this is going to be a video. I want to play a little bit of a clip from this video. You'll see how this is presented. This is by Scripture Central, who has much more money to have much slicker videos. but you will see that the argument is essentially the same. So I do think it's important to give them a chance on this show to state their argument in their own words so that we can be addressing the best version of their argument, that we can steelman their argument. And as part of that, I want to give them the chance of saying their argument in their own words. And here we go.
So let's cut right to it. What does the brother of Jared do? He goes up a mountain and did molten out of a rock 16 small stones, and they were white and clear. He takes them to the top of the mountain and cries once again to the Lord and says, "Touch these stones, O Lord, with thy finger, and prepare them that they may shine forth in darkness. And they shall shine forth unto us in the vessels which we have prepared, that we may have light while we cross the sea." And that's exactly what happens. Shining stones. That's what we're dealing with here. It seemed totally random, a product of the brother of Jared's imagination, or worse, a product of Joseph Smith's imagination. Now, you'll remember that the brother of Jared compared his barges in at least one way to Noah's Ark. So let's go back and read a bit more about Noah's Ark. Genesis 6:16 contains instructions from the Lord to Noah. "A window shalt thou make in the ark." The word window here is translated from the Hebrew word Sohar. In Genesis 8:6, we get another window reference. "And it came to pass at the end of 40 days that Noah opened the window of the ark which he had made." Curiously, this window is translated from the word shalom instead of Sohar. If you look up shalom in Strong's Concordance of the Bible, you find one meaning. It's a window. But if you look up Sohar, you get multiple meanings. One definition is simply a light, stemming from Sohar, which can mean to glisten. In the Midrash Rabbah, which is essentially ancient Jewish commentary on the first 5 books of our Old Testament, one rabbi explained Sohar to be a precious stone. During the whole time that Noah was in the ark, he did not require the light of the sun by day or the light of the moon by night, but he had a polished gem which he hung up. When it was dim, he knew that it was day, and when it shone, he knew that it was night. In the Babylonian Talmud, in reference to Sohar, another rabbi commented, "The Holy One, blessed be he, instructed Noah, set therein precious stones and jewels, so that they may give thee light, bright as the noon." One book about ancient Jewish folk tradition mentions that in the case of the Sohar, it is said that the glowing jewel was handed down by Adam and Eve to their son Seth, and that it subsequently reached Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, and of course, Noah. So when God told Noah, "Put the Sohar in the ark," Noah knew exactly what he meant, and thus Noah hung the Sohar from a beam in the ark, where it illuminated the ark. Again, we know from Ether 6 that the brother of Jared is already comparing his barges to Noah's Ark. So when you ask yourself where he gets this radical idea to use illuminated stones as a light source, he very well may still be following the pattern set by Noah.
Right. He may still be following the pattern set by Noah. See what a strong argument this is for the authenticity of the Book of Mormon. All right. Well, having given them their chance to give the apologetic version of this, let me tell you what's really going on and why this apologetic just got exploded by recent research, and specifically with the Adam Clark Bible commentary. Bill Reel and I did a recent Mormonism Live devoted to this subject based upon recent research by Colby Townsen. The Great and Abominable Plagiarism. This is where Colby Townsen, who is a scholar and a professor over at the University of Indiana, figured out that Joseph Smith used the Adam Clark Bible commentary in composing the Isaiah chapters of the Book of Mormon. He proves this in a recently published paper, which we went over in that episode. By the way, these are some of the old versions, the original versions of the 1817 New Testament commentary by Adam Clark. You can see how old they were. In that episode, we show, based upon Colby Townsen's research, that the Adam Clark Bible commentary was prevalent in Joseph Smith's neighborhood. It was very common, and he had access to it, and we can prove he had access to it, not only from historical accounts that mention him and the Adam Clark Bible commentary in the same story, but also because it shows up unquestionably in Joseph Smith's revision of the Isaiah chapters that he copied over into the Book of Mormon. Go and check out that episode that we did if you want more details on this. So this is from the inside of the first page of the Adam Clark Bible commentary. It's not just a Bible. It's got the authorized translation. It's got parallel texts. It's got marginal readings. It's got notes. It's got practical observations in order so that the reader might have a correct understanding of the sacred writings. And there is Colby Townsen and the title page of his recently released paper, Early 19th Century Biblical Scholarship and the Production of the Book of Mormon, in which he shows, indeed, as a conclusion, it appears that not only did Joseph Smith use the Adam Clarke Bible commentary for his 1831 to 33 inspired version of the Bible, the Joseph Smith translation, which had been discovered by earlier scholars, now Colby Townsen adds that he also used the Adam Clarke Bible commentary for his translation of the Book of Mormon. So, of course, this has sent people scurrying to the Adam Clarke Bible commentary, which is massive, multi-volume, to see if there are any other connections between what is in the pages of the commentary and the pages of the Book of Mormon. And if you can guess where this is going, you get the gold prize. So I saw on Mormon Reddit a couple of weeks ago this very interesting comment that an individual had made, and I apologize that I did not get their screen name, but I wanted to use this and certainly give them credit. Here is what they found when they looked at the Adam Clarke Bible commentary according to this post. By the way, this is quoting from the Adam Clarke Bible commentary. All right. Here is his commentary for Genesis 6:16. Now we are quoting from the Adam Clarke Bible commentary that Joseph Smith had access to, and we know he used in constructing at least part of the Book of Mormon. Verse Genesis 6:16 is what Adam Clarke commentary says. A window shalt thou make. What this was cannot be absolutely ascertained. We can't figure out what this means in Genesis 6:16 about the window and the Sohar, right? The original word, Sohar, signifies clear or bright. The Septuagint translate it by, and then they have the Greek word, collecting, thou shalt make the ark. So in the Septuagint, which was a Greek translation of the Old Testament around 200 BCE, the Septuagint doesn't have anything about a window in it. It says collecting, thou shalt make the ark, which plainly shows they did not understand the word as signifying any kind of window or light. That's the first point. So the Septuagint manifests that the translators there into the Greek did not understand it as meaning window or light because they translated it as collecting, thou shalt make the ark. It plainly shows they did not understand the word as signifying any kind of window or light. So that's the first thing. There's no windows according to the Septuagint in the ark. Symmachus translates it a transparency, and Aquila the noon. Now, note this. Jonathan ben Uzziel supposes, that's an ancient rabbi, Jonathan ben Uzziel supposes that it was a precious, luminous stone which Noah, by divine command, brought from the river Pison. It is probably a word which should be taken in a collective sense, signifying apertures for air and light. The poster of this comment, now that's the end of the quote from the Adam Clarke Bible commentary. The poster of this comment says, a similar comment appears in the footnotes of the LDS edition of the KJV. Yes, we saw that. We saw that footnote talking about Sohar and how ancient rabbis thought that Sohar thought it meant a luminous stone. It seems likely, this concludes, it seems likely that Joseph Smith saw this in Adam Clarke and incorporated it into his brother of Jared story. Now, the first thing is, this is very significant when I saw this. And, you know, there's a little bit of disappointment that goes along with it too, because this was a heck of an argument for me as an apologist. And now to find out not only that it's not a good argument at all, but actually it militates against the Book of Mormon because it shows where the most likely, I mean, the obvious location is that Joseph Smith got the idea for the luminous stone for the Jaredite barges and to liken the Jaredite barges unto Noah, as if you couldn't tell the similarities just from reading the two stories, right? They're luminous stones. So this appears to be an attempt by Joseph Smith to give verisimilitude to the Book of Mormon by adopting and incorporating into the text of the Book of Mormon ancient legends that are extra biblical, not mentioned in the Bible, in order to make it look like this is really an ancient work that knows stuff that the authors of the Bible did not know. So here are the two similarities that I see in the way in which the story of this light or the stones in the barges are similar to the Adam Clarke Bible commentary discussing the glowing stone in Noah's Ark. Number one, the Jaredite barges have no windows. Okay. Remember, they don't have any windows. This is what it says in verse 23. What will ye that I should do that ye may have light in your vessels? This is Ether chapter 2, remember. For behold, ye cannot have windows. There are no windows in the Jaredite barges. So number one, the Jaredite barges have no windows, and two, the Jaredite barges were lit by glowing stones. These are two ways in which the Adam Clarke Bible commentary that Joseph Smith used is similar to this story about the Jaredites and why it is that they are similar to Noah. Now, granted that this individual did post it on Mormon Reddit, and they're probably right. Sometimes they're not. So I wanted to do my due diligence. I went back and I double checked it with the corresponding chapter and verse in the Adam Clarke Bible commentary, an online version. And this person at Mormon Reddit did quote it correctly, and I've reproduced it here, underlining those two different parts about the Jaredite barges have no windows and the Jaredite barges lit by glowing stones, both reflected here in this paragraph from the Adam Clarke Bible commentary. Once again, I'm going to read it. A window shalt thou make. What this was cannot be absolutely ascertained. The original word Sohar signifies clear or bright. The Septuagint, the Greek version of the Old Testament, translates it by this Greek word, which means collecting, thou shalt make the ark, which plainly shows they did not understand the word as signifying any kind of window or light. There's the aspect of there being no windows in the ark. Stymachus translates it as this word, a transparency, and Aquila, this word, the noon. Jonathan ben Uziel supposes that it was a precious luminous stone which Noah, by divine command, brought from the river Pison. That's in the Adam Clarke Bible commentary. Joseph Smith used it, and it is amazingly similar to what it is we find in the Book of Mormon story about the Jaredites, glowing stones and all. So now I want to show you another clip from another video by another apologist organization that covers the exact same story and the exact same argument, but in a briefer form. And here we go with that video.
The idea that stones should glow is ridiculous, but legends of stones that could emit light were spread throughout the ancient world. One particularly important legend of shining stones the brother of Jared may have been familiar with was that of the stones Noah used to provide light in the ark during the Great Flood. Considering that the Jaredites' barges were described as being tight like unto the Ark of Noah, divinely lit stones would have seemed like the obvious choice for the Jaredites on their voyage to the Promised Land. And now you know why.
So there it is, and now you know why it is that the Jaredites used glowing stones, because they were only doing what it was that Noah had done before them, and of course they were familiar with the legend. And they asked the question, how did Joseph Smith know? It's always lurking there in the background. If not stated explicitly, it is implied. Let's take the other side of that coin now, based on this new research. Number one, we know from Colby Townsen's new research that Joseph Smith used the Adam Clarke Bible commentary while translating the Book of Mormon. Two, we know the Adam Clarke Bible commentary mentions the ancient legend of the glowing stone used to illuminate Noah's Ark. Three, we know the Adam Clarke Bible commentary also mentions the tradition there was no window in Noah's Ark. Four, we see the Book of Mormon follows these two suggestions by specifically describing the Jaredite barges as not having windows, being lit by glowing stones, and like unto Noah's Ark. The connection is made explicit, as the apologists stress as well. Finally, number five, the simplest explanation is that Joseph Smith got his description for the Jaredite barges directly from the Adam Clarke Bible commentary, glowing stones and all. And now you really know why. So the next time a Mormon apologist tries to impress you with the connection between Noah's Ark, ancient Jewish legends, and the glowing stones of the Jaredites, you can just smile and say, Adam Clarke begs to differ. So that's about all for tonight. Please hit like, please hit subscribe. Until next time, everybody, this is Radio Free Mormon, signing off the air.